Hi everybody, it's Andy here at Pin Community, and as you can see, I've got Mike Bristow from Crowd Property with us. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Andy. How are you doing?
Very, very good. Good Christmas.
Good. Very good, thank you. Yes. Good to be back, raring to go, etc.
Raring to go. Loads of things to do. No time to do them all. I know. Now we're going to talk about the sort of the best property development lender on the market. But what we're going to be looking at today is debunking 7 myths, which sounds quite intriguing. So I think it'd be great to get straight into this. I'll stick your presentation up, so we've got that. So the presentation's up now. So let's just get into this.
Yeah, sounds good. I think as part of our series, it's really helpful to just sort of reflect on some of the FAQs, some of the questions, some of the myths that we get about our business, and I think dispelling those will be nice, quick, and easy, and clarify a few points. So that's really the aim of today's session, and it sort of complements the other sessions we've done sort of quite well. So if we get into it, just as a reminder, we've now funded £371 million worth of property projects, over a third of £1 billion. Agreeing 223 million of facilities, 1,858 homes now funded, the construction thereof, and out the door lent 178 million. So we're becoming one of the strongest players in the development finance market, which is great. And actually, it's been quite interesting to look back on this series as well to see how these numbers are just sort of evolving and growing and growing.
Yeah.
But that's, it's all good. It frustrates the hell out of me. I'm a numbers guy, and I write down a number, and it's out of date quite quickly. But there's a good reason behind that, given the growth of the business. But let's get stuck into some of the key things that I hear and some of the key sort of questions I get. So firstly, we'll fund any sort of property project. And I've put in brackets here, including acquiring the asset. Often people come to us and say, hey, I've got this project that's a conversion of this, or I've got this site and I want to build something and it's just a field. Will you fund those? Right? Will you fund the project, the development of them? It's like, yes. And literally any type of property project. And that includes the actual purchase of the asset itself, whether that's land or an existing building, a commercial building, converting to resi, etc. So our development finance, our project finance sort of solution includes purchasing the asset and all of the costs associated with that project until you look to exit. And the way we look at you exiting is in broadly 2 ways. It's one, you might be selling it when it's finished, or you might be keeping it, and therefore the exit is sort of a refinance onto long-term sort of buy-to-let commercial mortgages, which is sort of commodity finance. But the key point here really is that we fund any sort of projects, and you can see here these are the sort of the products that we have, and we actually went out at first. This is a good sort of business strategy lesson or marketing lesson anyway. So many years ago, we'd say, well, we'd do anything. Right? And we would still get people phoning up and saying, hey, look, will you fund the development of this land? etc. So actually, we built specific products that really match to the specific projects that people are undertaking. And this is, some of it quite standardized sets, like development finance, heavy refurb finance, light refurb finance, HMO finance, etc. And then some more innovative and creative things like our planning game finance product, modern methods of construction. We were the first to go to market with a modern methods of construction dedicated product because it's quite complex on the cash flows in it. But the point is, come and talk to us about anything you're doing, and we will structure a finance product for you. And the bottom right there says special situations finance. That's basically anything else that doesn't fit into those other buckets.
Yeah, I think it's worth sort of pointing out this in a way, because when you go to a mortgage broker, if you're looking for funding and you go to a mortgage broker, they're going to have very, very constrained products that they do, and they're not even, and they don't really have much say over what those products are because they're built products for a specific sort of marketplace. And the problem with going just to maybe a JV partner who's got some cash, which is, you know, a pretty standard way of doing deals today, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with having a JV partner that's got some cash that wants to do some deals. But they're going to be, again, constrained by what they know or what they perceive or what they understand. And I think that the thing that what you're saying here, and which is worth pointing out, is that because you guys have done lots of different types of projects over the years, and you actually do these projects yourself, you know, it's not like you're not a lender. What you are is a funding arm, funding company. But you've done these sort of projects in the past. You understand the problems that people have. You understand the sort of issues they're going to have during the development, during the build, you know, or during the deal. And so when you say you can fund anything, it basically means that you'll take a project on and look at the project, rather than if it's, you know, like a buy-to-let or a HMO or that sort of thing. It's whatever it is, there's a funding process that you know that you can go through to actually get the deal done.
Exactly. Some of these are quite different. You know, every project is actually different, right?
Yeah.
It's quite hard isolating these things into icons, and that's very much why that sort of special situations finance we'll see plenty of stuff that's outside of these normal products that we structure the perfect finance product for. And that's why it's so important to be talking A, directly to the lender, B, that lender being experts, property people. And that's the power to really help you crack on with the project. So I'm going to move on to point two. So we're a development lender, not a crowdfunder. And this is really important. You know, we grew up as a peer-to-peer lender, bringing together private investors backing projects. But now, actually, you know, our funding mix is very, very diverse. So we've got private investors, but most importantly, we've got many, many different global institutional backers, right? So actually, nobody else has more reliable and diverse source of capital than us. And this is really fundamentally important because you know, during the early stages of the pandemic, when there was a lot of uncertainty in the market, there were a lot of development lenders, bridging lenders that said, do you know what, I can't lend anymore because my source of capital has said they're not interested. Why? Because many development lenders and bridging lenders have what's called wholesale capital. So from major global asset managers, they've got an agreement there, a line of capital, right? And the challenge there is that if you've got a single source of wholesale capital, that institutional asset manager might be saying, well, look, oh God, you know, part of my book is exposed to the equity markets and that's gone all a bit volatile. Right, I'm just going to pause everything, right? Okay, and regroup. And that happened quite a lot during COVID, especially the uncertain times. However, because we've got many, many sources of capital across many institutions and many private investors, actually, we were able to continue to fund, and we backed out where offers were reneged upon, even in projects where some development lenders stopped releasing drawdown money, okay, which destroys a project. Actually, on a previous episode, we talked about this. That our project of the year for 2021 was exactly that one, where a major development lender said, I can't release any more funds for you. And that wasn't because of the project. It was because of a structural issue with their company and their finance sources. And you know, and last year we announced this, which was yet another institutional funding line from a global asset manager, so £300 million commitment. And it's also important to understand the structure of these commitments. So these guys don't review every deal. We tell them where we've put their capital. So we are the decision makers, okay, not them. And that's really important. So we're in control. We're backing your projects and our decision making goes, right? So there's no hierarchy of hidden sort of governance and decision making, investment committees and things like that. It is up to us. And and that's our commitment, and that's why we have those diverse sources of capital, more diverse sources of capital than anyone else in the market, and more reliable sources of capital than anyone in the market. And those things are really important for the stability of your project.
Yeah, especially if it's in the mid project.
Yeah.
Which is, as you say, we talked about that in one of the past broadcasts, but and that can absolutely destroy the deal. I mean, could destroy lives as well if that happens. So, to have the ability to step in as you did with that project, probably save that person's bacon in so many ways, not just like financially, but just like mentally and everything.
Absolutely, and hugely important, right? Because they hadn't done anything wrong.
No.
They'd cracked on the project. They actually, once we'd refinanced it, they cracked on, finished the project, and they repaid us back early.
Yeah.
They're a great developer, and they were let down by a major development lender that just didn't have their act together and didn't risk manage their funding sources. So so moving on, myth number 3: we don't just fund glamorous projects, right? So we obviously share quite a lot on social media and things, and social media is fantastic for distribution of message and showcasing what we do and the great projects we back. It just so happens that sometimes the sexy photos get more likes, right? And sometimes, therefore, those sexier projects, those fantastic pictures like the ones we see in front of us, okay, they get distributed more widely.
Yeah.
Right. So the majority of the projects on this page are 3, 4, 5, 6 million pound GDP projects, right? And they are beautiful pictures. These are projects we've backed, and they have been more widely distributed because of that, right? But it's not just beautiful, sexy CGIs of 3, 4, 5, 6 million pound projects that we fund. Okay, so don't be put off by that. See this as a good thing. Because major developers doing great schemes are working with us. We fund many commercial to residential projects, and these are many. And if you look at the middle row furthest to the right, you definitely can't say that is a sexy, glamorous project. It's an ugly office block, but that is often the case with commercial to residential projects.
But it doesn't get the clicks.
Yeah, it doesn't get
those clicks.
Exactly. So don't be put off by it, and that goes right through to HMO and co-living projects. That project, the house in the middle at the bottom here, is a 4-bed end terrace student HMO in Liverpool that I think we lent 100 grand towards. Right, this is not about just the glamorous projects. We want to back any of your projects that you're doing. Next, so myth number 4: you don't need to be a very experienced developer to work with us. And this is not that we don't look for experience and expertise and look to risk manage it, because not only are we risk managing the capital that we've provided, but we're also risk managing and helping you make sure that that project will be a success. That's what we want as a partnership. Right. And again, we take a different attitude to finance. We're a partner with you, not we'll give you some money and we'll beat you up until we get it back. It's very much, what are the pieces that we all need to put together to make sure that to increase the chance of success of the project? And I'd like to talk about one project in particular here. This is a 4.5 million pound GDV project in Somerset, making these beautiful houses in sandstone, real high-end sort of developments. And the principal developer here, came to us and said, I've got this project I'd like to do. It's 4.5 million GDV. I'd like about 3.5 million pounds worth of capital to put into that. There's just this one thing that I've never developed anything before in my life, right? So now that wasn't just what he said. To be fair to him, he said, and I've put together a really good team, right? So we said, great, okay, tell us more. And actually he said, well, I'll come to your office. And he came to our office. And he arrived, and he's actually a doctor, and he turned up and said, well, and here's my team. And so followed in through the door was his architect, his planning consultant, his QS, his project manager, etc., etc. And they were all on the boat, committed to this project, incentivized in this project. Okay. And what he had done is he had recognized where he didn't have the skill sets. Okay. And he had built the team to do so. Right. And we worked really closely with him to say, is this the right team? Have you got all the expertise covered, etc.? Because that's quite a big project. It's going to be complex. You're going to have challenges, right? And actually, we worked together. And again, it wasn't us covering our asses. It was making sure the developer would achieve success and having the right skill set and actually come to the end of this project. And we've paid about this project. We've got a case study, a video case study with a drone flying around this village. It wasn't that popular with the neighbours. And a great example of how we are open to a discussion, to working with anyone. Okay, and we will talk about, right, how do we maximize the chance of success, and that's in our interest, and most importantly in your interest. That's what we're trying to shape. And everyone's got to start somewhere, right? I wouldn't always say that you should start with a £4.5 million GDP project, but it is possible.
Well, it just goes to show, I think, that you if you come in with the right attitude, the skill sets can be developed over time. But if you bring in the right sort of people, you understand who you got to bring in. But the other thing that struck me from talking to you guys over these last few months is that if someone comes to you with a development project and they don't have someone who you think they need, you can quite happily say, look, this is what we think you need to do to get this project to the go point. You need to get this person in or this person in, or you need to do this, maybe slightly do this in a slightly different way. But you help them to do that. And this is something which, again, shouldn't be sort of overlooked, because most lenders won't be able to do that. Most lenders haven't got a clue.
Exactly.
With you guys, if someone comes to you and it looks like a great project and the numbers all stack up and they've done as good as they can do, but they haven't quite got some elements in place, then you guys can talk to them and help them with that as well. And this is something which I think is quite unique. Exactly.
It's that value add piece, right? Because many will say, right, that's your application. No, thank you. Just say a no, right?
Yeah.
Whereas actually it's a conversation. And that comes on to the next point, actually, which is really important, because so it really does just take 5 minutes to apply. And this is the key bit. We'll give you a second pair of eyes, okay, on your project. And we'll also give you some helpful data as well, because we like data, we're a tech business, and et cetera, et cetera. But so, and this is important. We don't expect you to hide away for months creating the perfect business plan, perfect proposal in order to then put it to us that we can then say yes or no. What we look for is, hey, look, early on, let us help you filter your pipeline. Okay, let us help you say, do you know what, versus £8 billion worth of applications, actually, this is a really good project. Okay, we'd love to work with you on it. And hey, look, proceed with confidence. Or it's like, hey, look, actually, there are some challenges here in this project, and the cost numbers and whatever, right? And help you actually say no to some things and then proceed with confidence with others. This is our application form, right? This starts the conversation. We're not asking for the full pack, the full proposal, the full everything, okay? Bounce things off us. We like looking at projects. We'll share a view. We'll help you we'll help you filter your great projects from the not so great projects. And as a sort of a thank you for starting that conversation, so basically you submit this form and we'll get in touch. We'll give you a buzz. I've said it before, this strange human thing where we actually engage at a human level and give you a call, chat through your vision of what you're trying to achieve, etc., and understanding your project, so we can really have an informed opinion on it and share that with you. Okay, so this won't even take 5 minutes. Okay, it's just a few minutes just to fill that in about your project, right? And whilst we're taking a quick look, and this fires off a load of tech and data and things like that in our business and puts that in front of our team before they call you. But what we'll also do is when you click submit, you get two things. So this is a list it's a mapped list around your project, okay, of service providers. So you can filter this list. So tell me within 10 miles about architects, contractors, and planners in this instance. So you can add and take away the filters of the service providers, things like that. And what the list gives you is people within that radius, right, that have worked on projects similar to yours. So we've got a tolerance of a certain amount either side of the GDV level, the size of the end value of your project. Okay, and you see here that BM3 Architecture Limited has done 53 similar projects to the one proposed, right? So it's probably a good idea to chat to them. Okay, that's helpful because they have expertise in the size of project that you look at. And the same for planners, the same for building surveyors, construction managers, employers, agents, surveyors, flood risk consultants, arborologists, the list goes on. This is sort of super helpful data for you and your project. And it's one of our resources, so we thought we'd share it. And then the other thing that it also gives you is other local planning applications. And this we zoom into a tighter radius. So you can have a look at what else is being built. What other stages are there? Is Berkeley Homes building 100 flat development next door or not? And when do they expect to be built? The start finish date in the list, right? And that helps you understand the supply dynamics and the competition dynamics. Are we going to be earlier or later than that scheme? And is that going to set a reference point, or is that going to flood the market? Or all of these things that again we use in our analysis that just is helpful information for you.
That's brilliant. Great little value add in the application stage as well.
Yeah, exactly. And and we've there are many other aspects that we're going to build into this as well to just help you out. And this is probably the most frequently asked question, right? So this
is human nature, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is complete human nature. What you're going to say here, because we've spoken about this before, but it is complete human nature.
Yeah, and so I say, look, apply and let us will help you filter projects and back the ones that are great. But look, no, we do not keep a score of good or bad applications. Literally, is just look. Use our expertise and our technology to help you find the right project. Bounce stuff off us will help. And when you've got a cracking project, you can just focus on closing that deal. And that's really powerful for you being most efficient in your in growing your property business.
And do you know what? Before you go on to that next one, the reason why I think this is important is because if we look at the sort of people who are in the PIN community. And the people have been trained through PIN and things like that. There are going to be people who have had a lot of experience. I mean, some people who go through to do things like Mastermind, for instance, have already been in property. Some people haven't had any experience in property who do things like Mastermind. And within that community, there's going to be people right across the board. And the last thing that we want to do here is to get in people's minds, which is what is in people's mind. As I say, it's human nature that I'm not sort of worthy of doing a deal because I don't have the experience. Because one of the things you'll find, and we've spoken about this before, is that when people come into this, they do some training and they understand the process, they understand how to do their numbers, which is probably the most important. By the time they get to that point and they find a piece of land or they find a development that they think might be quite good, the last thing you want is for them to sort of have in their heads that I'm not worthy because I haven't got enough experience. Yeah. If you put in a bad deal or a bad application or an application that doesn't quite work, what we call a bad application, there's going to be a few things that happen there. First thing, you're going to understand the application process. You're going to start talking to people who are experts in property. You're going to understand why that deal probably wouldn't have worked, because you're talking to the experts. This is probably this is applying yourself to a task and getting probably the best education of how to structure a deal by talking to you guys in the first place.
Exactly.
Now, you're going to go to this, say human nature, you're going to go to this and put in, you're going to try and get your numbers right, try and get everything done properly, because you want to show that you've got things right. But if you have got one thing wrong, it doesn't mean the deal might be bad. It just means that you hadn't thought about that thing. And talking to you guys, you can help people who are trying for the first time to get some sort of application over the line, get some funding in for a deal. And that's what I think the message. It's not just people who have been doing this for years. It's if you want to do this and you're really trying hard to get something up and running, these guys are the best people to talk to, because they can spot if you haven't covered something, and there's no shame in not doing that. If you're new to it or you're inexperienced, it's not a blockage,
Exactly. So, and it's really important, and again, it sort of helps you. We've got a reference point of £8 billion worth of applications, so we can really pinpoint. Okay, is this great or not very good or whatever? It's like, actually, sometimes it's best to just forget about some opportunities because they don't stack up.
But going through that process, they'll get an education of why it didn't work or why it wouldn't work. And that's, I say, is the education that, you need to do stuff. You don't just read stuff and think about things. You have to go and do stuff, put yourself on the line a little bit. But talking to people talking to you guys will be probably the best education of how to fund a project and what makes a project a good project. So Don't be shy, It's like get in there, start talking.
Yeah, very much so. So then moving on to our final one. So, and this is really important. Okay, development finance is a service and a partnership, not a commodity. And actually that service and partnership we've pretty much defined, because it's been so transactional in the market. This is why we set Crowd Property up, right? Because it didn't exist. A customer-focused service and partnership approach that really wants to back developers time and time again and have a lifetime relationship just didn't exist. We could never find it. And we work with some shocking lenders, each of ourselves as founders and wider people in the team. And it's also not a commodity. Commodity is something like buy-to-let financing is a good, commodity type product in this space, where actually, it's just funding the provision and then you set up the direct debit, right? It's not a service, it's not a partnership. It's just, you just pay. Right, it's therefore price fought on the high street and through brokers, etc. And that's great. There's lots of competition, and it's price led, so you can be price picky. But don't just look at price, because people that do then have under-resourced lenders that just rip the rug from under them at any point, and they don't have any sort of value add. Also, speed is absolutely critical, and it gives you negotiation advantage. Okay, crucially when you're negotiating with vendors, and it does save you your valuable time when you could be finding sites or delivering sites. And you really want an expert partner who really understands, who really takes the property viewpoint. We know, okay, that it takes certain skill sets, and for example, with that £4.5 million GDP project, it will increase the likelihood of success if you have these people associated with it. And hey, look, their projects, they might go late, but we still back the principal developer, we still back the project, okay, and we back you, and we support that process, again, to increase the likelihood of success of your project. And that's what we're all in the market for. And that really gets summed up exactly by this, which is our propositions we talked about before: property finance by property people. And we're delivering speedy, certainly transparency and expertise of finance for property professionals. That's why we're in so much growth. That's why we're recognized by so many things, like we're one of Europe's fastest growing businesses. That's why we're recognized by so many awarding bodies. And that's 7 myths that hopefully brings a bit more about us to life, and how we can help you, and we're generally in the market to help and to increase the likelihood of success of your projects.
Fantastic, Mike. I think that's cleared a lot of things up, and it's also clarified some of the things that we do get questions coming in, and I think that just clarified a lot of it. So thanks very much for that, and thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure as always.
If you've got any queries, guys, as usual, let me just put this back on here so we can see both of us. If you've got any queries about crowd property, then you can put them below in the comments. There's also the application URL. Even if you don't have an actual deal, just go and have a look at the application page to see what information they need or that is required just to kick this whole conversation off. So when you do find something you want to do, you know exactly what sort of information you need. But apart from that, any last passing remarks? Well,
no, I mean, crowdproperty.com/apply, a few minutes and we'll help you out.
Fantastic. Perfect. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll speak to you all very soon. We'll be back next week with another one of these. See you soon.